All right, thank you, Rick. All right, item 4 is approval of the, let me make sure I'm on the, approval of the minutes from the April 11th, 2013 Benefits and Services Committee open session.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. You have that on the note?
Okay.
Great. Excellent. Thanks. All right, so it's approved. Item 5, City College of San Francisco update. Peggy.
So I provided you with just some basic information as an extension of the conversation that we discussed at the last, or began really at the last board meeting on the accreditation challenges facing City College of San Francisco. And I wanted to just add that we really continue to actively monitor the status of that college. We're following it in the media. We're getting updates on a daily and or weekly basis. We recognize that the college is making a very concerted effort to retain its accreditation. But we also noted a comment from the community college's chancellor, Bryce Harris, that was made in late August that suggested as many as 20 other community colleges face accreditation problems, although they were not identified, which gave me pause because there is then perhaps a more systemic problem that could create other challenges for us. But the simple solution, or the simple answer is once a community college loses accreditation from all of the investigation that we have done, is that it is then no longer receiving public funds for its operation. And since it's no longer receiving public funds, it is no longer a member of our system. And so those individuals would not be active contributors if they continue to teach for that institution. They would be, it would be as if they were teaching at a private college or some other entity. There have been no other colleges that have gone through this process where members were actually not involved in a more positive way. So Compton is the only other community college that went through a loss of its accreditation, but all of the faculty were taken on by a different community college district, and so there was no gap in service for those individuals. And it was on a much smaller scale. I doubt that any of the community colleges existing today would be willing to take on something the size of San Francisco, which is one of the largest districts in the state.
That's huge.
You know, I can say that, you know, I have an ever-growing email file of updates on what's going on in terms of their efforts. You know, they're looking at what their appeal rights are before the Accreditation Commission. They're looking at other ways to bolster and support their assertions that they are in compliance. You know, obviously we're neutral on those compliance activities and efforts that they're engaged in, but we're continuing to monitor it very closely. We have been providing and will continue to provide additional counseling and support services to the faculty and CalSTRS members who are employed by the City College of San Francisco. We want them to understand what will happen to them. We've had some very successful encounters with them so far. I think the faculty there, the membership there is understanding of what their circumstances are. I do fear that in the relative importance of things, teachers' retirements is not foremost. And so, you know, it may not be on everyone's radar, and we want to make sure that we're doing the outreach to those members so that they understand what benefits they may be entitled to. They understand completely that if they're no longer teaching for San Francisco as an accredited community college, that they don't forfeit their membership in CalSTRS, that they don't lose benefits that they have earned to date, that they are still entitled to all of those benefits, and will certainly have an opportunity to transition to another CalSTRS covered employer to the extent that they're successful in doing that. They would minimize any gaps in service. And I would just open it for any other questions that committee members may have.
Seeing none, I have a couple comments, and I know that we have some comments from the public. So, but I will say, you know, this is near. I mean, I'm a community college professor, so this is near and dear to my heart because, you know, in LA we say anyone can be the next city college of San Francisco, and so I think it's something, as you say, about the 20 other schools around the state that are on either show cause or some kind of, you know, issue with ACCJC. It's a definite concern that, you know, this might not be the only one, and there might be further issues down the road. And I know there's CFT and CTA are actively engaged in trying to kind of, deal with the situation. But it's certainly a concern, and I do want to appreciate Ed. I know you spoke at that retirement. I've done that a couple times. So I'm glad that you were there. I'm glad our staff are actively engaged, because I am concerned that obviously the primary concern is accreditation, but as a trustee of CalSTRS, I'm concerned about their retirement and just knowing that faculty know what their options are. So I really applaud staff for being engaged and proactive, because I do think we have to keep it, we have to kind of stay engaged with them, because it's certainly not the primary concern because of the issues they're dealing with. I did want to ask, though, I know that there's, I think, approximately 1,000 CalSTRS members that work for CCSF. They serve over 90,000 students. And you had mentioned that we've reached about, at least on some of the interactions, about 80 members, and I'm just wondering, is there a way, I know going to the conference is helpful. Are there a way that we can try and reach more of the members and try and kind of, or is there other ways we can reach more since there's so many of them? How can we get the word out besides the conference that I know Ed spoke at?
Well, I think it's difficult for us to presume something, on behalf of the
Sure.
membership. And so our focus has been on those members who are eligible to retire, thinking this might accelerate a retirement decision.
Right.
For those members, it may not affect the mid-career or mid-aged faculty member or CalSTRS member as much as it affects somebody who is of retirement age. So it may drive decision-making. We want to make sure that we're providing them with good information about what their alternatives are in that environment. We can continue to work with them as the situation evolves. So, we have a chance to enter into their internal network. I don't know that we have that opportunity now, but we can certainly look at providing some communication pieces that they could then distribute to their members to help them understand. I don't know how they would be impacted by CalPERS. We haven't yet done that outreach to CalPERS to see how they're handling this group of employees, but certainly there are some other retirement systems that individuals who work there in classified positions are associated with, and so I'm assuming that they have a very similar situation, but I haven't looked at their law yet to make that determination. I think Mr. German has some additional comments.
Also, we've had conversations with the union leadership and, let them know that, to whatever extent that we can help them in their communication, we want to help them. And, there's some people that we're all familiar with who are very close to San Francisco and we work closely with. So, there's a number of channels that we'll be able to utilize.
Can I ask you kind of when you were there in August, what was the tone, or what were some of the issues that came up with
There was a lot of
faculty?
anxiety,
Yeah.
just for sure. I think I got the sense from what people told me afterwards that they really appreciated, that we, assured them that, that we're not going anywhere,
Right.
and that
Right.
they will get the benefits that they've accrued, and if they continue to teach in either the community college or the K-12, that they will earn additional service credit. So I think, it helps a lot just to have people there, just to sort of say, you got a lot of other issues to deal with, obviously, but this isn't one of them, that
Right.
you're gonna get your benefits. So I think it was quite successful in that regard.
Well, I'm glad you were there. We'll go to public comment. So Jennifer.
Good afternoon, Jennifer Baker with the California Teachers Association. In addition, I'm also the lobbyist representative for the Community College Association, which is the higher educational segment of CTA. I really want to thank you and your staff for the work that you've done to highlight this issue. It's been a very tumultuous time for everyone involved, but there have been numerous organizations within the community college world, various advocates, as well as the Chancellor's Office, that is trying to make sense of what has been happening. The legislature did support having an audit done on the ACCJC because, frankly, CTA, many other organizations within the community college world are extremely concerned about the type of activities that they've been having, the lack of transparency and oversight of the actual ACCJC is a serious concern, and we're hoping that that audit that the legislature has done might yield some interesting information that perhaps can prove to be more beneficial for the overall situation. We are hopeful that things will turn out in a positive way, not just for the faculty, but also for the students that can be impacted, because it's not like the faculty are just going to be able to go get a job next door, and it's not like the students are also going to have access. And we also want to note that the Chancellor's Office is having their board meeting, and they're discussing this as well as numerous other issues related today. So whatever coordination that you can do with the Chancellor's Office to make sure that they're aware of what's going on, because you are the retirement experts and there are ripple impacts, and initially they didn't realize there could also be retirement implications. So thank you for bringing this to everyone's attention.
And I'll get to you.
Brian Doyle from the California Federation of Teachers. I've got a written statement that I'd like to submit for the record on behalf of AFT Local 2121 at San Francisco City College, where we represent the faculty there. And part of that letter is to express their thanks for the effort of Mr. Durman and the counselors and their efforts in August. It certainly was much appreciated and well received, and I think they're looking forward to getting further input from you folks as the opportunity arises.
Good, great. Thanks, Brian. And Andrew?
Hi, Andrea York on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges, and just wanted to thank my colleagues for their comments just now. As you know, several colleges are also on lists of accreditation, and so this issue goes beyond San Francisco City College, and to the extent that FAC can be helpful in getting information out to any faculty throughout the state that are concerned about what could happen if they were in the same position, we're here to help you. Thank you so much for all of your efforts.
Thanks, Andrew. Excellent. Did you want to chime in, David?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks so much for your comments, everyone. All right. That was an informational item, so we'll move on to item 6, which is our annual member satisfaction survey, 2013. Elisa? Am I saying that right? Is Elisa? Okay. Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon. I am here to brief you on the member satisfaction survey. I think I spoke to many of you last year on this topic. The survey is conducted annually, and it asks our members their opinions about our delivery on products and services. It's the biggest survey that my area conducts during the year. We do it in conjunction with the vendor, Thomas Ferris. It produces a ton of data, and I'm going to try and walk you through as much of it as possible, and I'd be happy to answer questions as we go along. So before we jump into the data slides, I wanted to provide some updates on some of the important topics that we looked at last year. Perhaps the biggest one was the changes in survey methodology, and we did a complete overhaul of the survey. We looked at the questions, the content, how we had the scales rated, and the anchors, and really all of it. The upshot of all of that was that there were a lot of changes last year, and I didn't present very much year-over data. This year, we've been consistent with our methodology, so at least 2012 to 13, you'll be able to start to see the trends. We also looked at a web-based survey. We investigated that last year, and statistical analyses of that sample showed that there were not many differences between paper and pencil and web-based. So as a result, this year we went to a fully web-based survey. We eliminated 15,000 paper copies of surveys and mailing and hand data entry and all the rest of it. So we're satisfied and happy that we're more consistent with our sustainable goals. In terms of content, we added a content area last year on member engagement. I'll talk more about this as we get into the presentation. We added it because we believe that it's a measure that will predict behavior better, and it sets a higher standard than overall satisfaction by itself. This year, we continued to look at that. We've changed the measurement a bit. The scores are trending up, and we believe that measurement is providing good information. The improvement area that was identified last year was timeliness of replies. That continues to be an area of concern for members this year, and we can look at that when we get there. Okay, so these are just the high-level summary of the data, and on each point I'll show the specific data as I kind of drill down on each topic. Our measurement of overall satisfaction showed statistically significant improvement year over, so that was very nice to see. Also, significant improvement in satisfaction with our websites. All of the evaluation of staff performance showed a positive trend. There was a negative trend in the service performance areas, and again, a positive trend in member engagement.
Is that just always the case that there's a negative trend with service? It just seems like one of the things I know, just being here for I think 4 years now, it just seems like that's the constant issue is around timeliness of answering phones or.
Well, I would say that we had some unique challenges last fiscal
Definitely.
year relative
Absolutely.
to our contact center
Absolutely.
primarily, and that is by far the most frequent source of member communication directly with us, where members feel the pain of that. And as you'll recall, the loss of students in
Right.
September,
Right.
coupled with challenging hiring processes and recruitment efforts, and we'll discuss this more in the accomplishments report next month because you'll see it reflected in our performance there as well. I think that the bright spot in this is that even though it took longer for them to get to us to get the information that they wanted, what we're seeing is it was positive relative to staff performance. So once they got in and they were past their frustration with the entry method, they were happy with the results. And they were feeling more engaged with CalSTRS as a result. So, I think that speaks to the commitment and dedication of staff in customer service in particular, because they did spend a year of intolerable wait times and unacceptable delays in getting to the number of members that we wanted to. And we certainly saw that in the survey information.
Great. Thanks, Meg.
All right, so this is the only trend line that I'm going to show you 10 years worth of data on. It's here because the data is really very solid, even though there's a step change in the methodology between 2011 and 2012. You see just very solid data. I put it up because I think it's interesting to look at the variation, and I think it's good to see that kind of solid performance. If you focus on the last 2 years, between 2012 and 2013, that's where you see that significant improvement. And this is, the slide is reporting out on the percentage of members who are reporting a high level of satisfaction when they were asked about their overall satisfaction with CalSTRS. You ready?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, and then if we break down that overall satisfaction for the members, if we break it down by life stage, so we look at satisfaction with teachers at different ages and different points in their career, what we see is that the older members overall are just more satisfied, and it's consistent with what we know about our teachers. As they get closer to retirement, they tend to interact with us more. And those interactions tend to be positive, especially as people enter into retirement. We cut the data a new way this year for this report. And what we looked at just straight on was members interacting with us versus members who didn't. So if you did anything, if you had any interaction with CalSTRS over the past year, if you read our newsletter, if you visited a member service center, if you made a phone call or sent a letter, you fell into the bucket of teachers who interacted with us. And what you can see is that in that high satisfaction rating, it's significantly more. If you interacted with us, you're significantly more satisfied. Those who aren't interacting with us, it's not that they're staying away because they're not happy with us. They're simply neutral. They're piling up there in that gray area and the 3 to 5 ratings. And then we've got very few members reporting low levels of satisfaction. And then this is just a chart that shows all the different ways that members could have interacted with us in the past year. And what we see is that over 50% of the members are reading the newsletter, which is great, and over 50% are visiting the websites, both My CalSTRS and CalSTRS.com. And then things tail off as you get to the different modes of interaction. Shifting now away from that overall, how satisfied are you? This slide talks, or it asks members, it reflects the data that's asked members, how do you feel about our staff? And it asks things like courtesy and caring attitude, but also, how did they feel about the knowledge, the staff's knowledge about CalSTRS and knowledge about retirement issues. And what you see is very solid data, and the trend is positive year over when you compare. Okay, here's the service slide, and these items focus on things like timeliness of replies and ease of contacting, those topics that we've discussed a bit. There is a negative trend if you look year over. It's not significant, but I'm pointing it out because it's a trend across the board and therefore definitely merits some attention. We asked members how they feel about our websites. There's significant improvement with their satisfaction with CalSTRS.com and My CalSTRS. It's wonderful news. There was a lot of effort put into the website redesign that went live in January. This data was collected in March, and we feel like the data is capturing a member response to that redesign. All right, so we're going to shift and talk a little bit about member engagement. Member engagement is considered a higher standard than satisfaction alone. It's also considered a better predictor of future behavior, which is why we're specifically interested in it. And it measures both the rational assessment of products and services, which is what a traditional satisfaction measure does. In addition to that, it measures the emotional attachment to CalSTRS. And emotional attachment is built up over time. It's reflective of an ongoing relationship. And we think engagement is important because we know that engaged customers provide more positive word-of-mouth recommendations. They're more willing to try out new products, and they are more willing to sustain a relationship even in bumpy times. So as we look to inspire our members to become active in their planning and preparation for retirement, as well as we want a desire to inspire them to invest in defined contribution plans. We feel like having engaged members is an important aspect of that picture. We did a bit of revision on the equation, how we combine the attributes, and I'll show you all 15 of those, and those are coming in the next 2 slides. So we edited how those attributes are combined. We had last year's data and this year's data, and we were able to look at it and get a better sense of what was going on. We added one new attribute, CalSTRS Listens, and I'll show you that. And when we did the analyses, we see an improvement with 56% of the members falling into the engaged category as opposed to 53% last year.
So when they're engaged, so 56% of our members are engaged, that means what?
I'm going to show you.
Okay.
So there's 15 of these. It's on this slide and it's on the next slide, but just to go a little bit slowly, we ask members how they feel about CalSTRS showing them respect and whether or not we're an organization that they can trust and so on. The engaged number reflects folks, if you fall into the engaged category, you scored these aspects higher. Overall satisfaction also plays a role in the total equation. So engaged members feel more positive. They agree more strongly with these statements than members who fall into the category of not being engaged. On each of the 15 attributes, there's a positive trend year over, and that speaks to what Peggy was mentioning. In spite of the difficulties, we're finding, I would kind of term it as stronger attachment to CalSTRS. There's significant increase in the respect category, caring about members like me, and acting ethically, which I think just says a lot positive about the organization. And these are the second half of those attributes. The second attribute on the slide, CalSTRS listens to its members. We added that this year to improve and better the measurement. It's kind of the flip side of communication. Not only do we communicate out to members and share information, but we provide vehicles such as the surveys and the being able to contact the ombudsman and communicate with us, that members are able to communicate back with us and that we listen and attend to the things that they're saying.
Alyssa, can I ask you a question on this? I just want to make sure, is this a correct interpretation? It wouldn't be showed in the slides per se, but when you showed the change in satisfaction by life stage, at the very beginning, so the overall satisfaction is up 6 points across the entire group, right? And then when you showed it by life stage, you made the comment, as in the past, that the retirees tend to be more satisfied than the younger workers. But the scores on the younger age cohorts are quite high this time. They went up for 30 to 39, up 11 points. For 40 to 49, they're up 9 points. For the next group, 7 points. So it would appear that the increase in satisfaction was driven by the change in the scores of the younger responses, because those are the categories that all changed, right?
And do you mind if we flip back?
Yeah,
Do you
well,
want-
before,
you
here,
wanna go
that
back
isn't my
there?
question, though.
Okay, go
So
to your
if that seems to be really evident, but
So my concern would be is that the end in those younger life stages is smaller.
Well, I looked
so
at those.
It's going to impact less.
Yeah.
But yes, there is change in those younger categories.
But the ends when you get to 40 through 59 are just as large as the ends later, and those were much higher scores.
Much more substantial.
Okay,
Yes.
so in general, I don't mean the real young, but the younger than retired, I'd say those scores are all up. Okay, so my question is, can I assume that if age was driving that satisfaction up 6 points, is age driving the engagement up, do we know as well? Is that the driver of this change?
It's a fantastic question, and this particular piece of data is not sliced
I know.
by age decile. And I
Yeah.
thought about it last night myself.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
And I didn't have time to get, the data kind of has to be cleaned and weighted, and it has to be, I have to have the right data set.
Okay.
And we could, should, and will get the answer to that.
Yeah, I think for all of us that we're so intrigued by this engagement definition rather than satisfaction. I'm glad you asked the question,
Yeah.
Sharon, what does it mean?
Yeah.
But in the literature around the workplace, this is where all the thinking is right now, is around defining engagement and recognizing that is the best value coming from that. So I want us to keep thinking about this particular body of factors and then understand what's driving it for us. If it is that would be wonderful if it were in fact our younger membership, because we've struggled so much create
Right, I mean,
engagement
that's-
around the younger membership. So anyway, just something that'd be nice to keep slicing and dicing that maybe around that age cohort, around that,
I
around
mean,
the.
we have less than 1% Twitter following. I mean, that's terrible. We got to get those numbers up for Twitter. Peggy?
So another question that might come to your mind is that, our overall engagement score is, a little better than half. Is that good?
Right.
And
That was my-
I've had this conversation with Alyssa, and normally you would look to an industry for what's a comparator, and because work on engagement in the public sector is so much in its infancy stages, we really can't find good comparators. So the real comparison for us is, are we improving on a year-for-year basis for now? I'm assuming that over time, other systems will also start investigating engagement as a measure of their successful performance, and we'll be able to do some comparisons with our peers, but right now we're not able to do that. So is 56 a good score or a bad score? It's our score, and I think that's what we have to look at, that we have 56% of our members who are engaged, and overall that means more than half. It means that we've been making whatever we're doing is making us move in the correct direction, and that's really what we need to be focused in on. Not that, 56, that's way below 70%. You get an F. I mean, no, that's not how we should be looking at this measure at all. So I want to make sure that, normally you can equate on a 7-point scale. What does that mean? Actually, it's a pretty high level of involvement, because it's extracted from a variety of factors where satisfaction it is telling us one story. This is telling us another story, and it's telling us that they're directly linked and related, but that this one is going beyond and measuring beyond that.
I think the idea too, though, of trying to measure emotional attachment is interesting, because it sounds so subjective in some ways, and yet I think some of obviously the standards that you had in the data definitely helped lead us to that. But it's an interesting question, and it's certainly something I hear about from members all the time. I mean, members always come up and say, "Oh, I have so much confidence in CalSTRS because Jack's blog is on there, and I could ask him any question I want." Or it is interesting that even though it's sort of an we have all this. It's striking to me that there is such an emotional, kind of connection or attachment that our members have with.
And emotional is the word used in the literature. To me, it's almost a relationship, right? And emotions are part of that, but emotions do sound very subjective. And when you look at the way that we've got this defined in terms of, CalSTRS is an organization I can trust, there's probably some emotion involved with that, but to me, it's more about the relationship.
That's a good distinction. I like that.
All right, I have a summary slide, and then I'm going to wrap it up. We are very happy with our new methodology. I feel like we've been successful, and I think the organization at large feels like we've been successful aligning measurement across the organization so that we can look at the data in a broader way. The 7-point scale seems to be working very, very efficiently for members to express their opinions. The electronic survey was a huge win in terms of saving on resources. And we like the engagement measure. I am very excited to look at the age deciles and see if engagement, we're capturing the younger members, because I think that's really an area that's ripe with opportunity. I think with the data, we're also seeing that our actions matter. We are seeing significant positive changes that the members are reporting and how they feel about us. And that's great, because we're making a lot of effort to try to serve them in the best way possible. There's still the opportunities with that timeliness of replies and some of the other service performance aspects, and I think it's always good to have our work, our work clear of things that we need to go after. And that's all I have, unless anyone has questions.
Any questions from the committee?
No, great.
That's excellent. Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it. All right. Next, we have a deputy CEO report. Ed and Peggy.
So I'm going to lead off and just indicate that similar to what we did last year, we ran our annual update process. That's the process that we go through that trues up everyone's accounts for the prior fiscal year. We ran that Labor Day weekend very successfully. And for those members who are going online to look, their retirement progress reports are posted online. We will be mailing hard copy to members in November. That is still ahead of our prior schedules. I mean, this is a new schedule that we created last year. But we're hoping that for the retirement progress reports for the current year, for the 13-14 fiscal year, that those will go with our electronic-only distribution unless the member requests to receive a paper copy. We're hoping that that is in effect for current fiscal year. We're on target to do that. And so when I report to you next year, it won't be that we'll be mailing in November. We'll probably still be doing mailing for some, but certainly the majority of them will just be receiving their retirement progress report online. And certainly they all have access to not just the current progress report, but other years' worth of information if they want to do a comparison.
Is that legislation that we're running to have it be all?
Yes, it is. It is AB 989, and it's
Right.
on the governor's desk.
Okay, so we're just waiting for him to get through. Okay.
And we don't anticipate that there will be a problem in getting it signed,
Okay.
according to
Thanks.
Ed.
Okay.
Well, and
Hold
Ed
me
is,
responsible.
Ed is on mission, so
According
we
to
know he
Ed.
has, yeah, exactly.
Really. Just one other thing is that we're mailing the member kits to about 31,000 members next week. We have them broken down into different groups. One is for the newly vested, one is for the mid-career people, and another kit for those who are near retirement. And it's information. One of them is trying to get them to access My CalSTRS online for self-service, get them to understand the need for saving additional money on their own using Pension 2. It's just another means that we use to communicate with our members, and it's been quite successful in the past. So we'll be sending it out to, as I said, about 31,000 members next week.
So I'm sorry, I missed, you're sending it to newly vested.
Newly vested, so it's people who are age
Right,
36 and
so-
under with 5 or 6 years of service credit.
Okay.
Then there's another group of mid-career, which is 49 or 50 with at least 7 years of service credit. And then near retirement, which is age 54 with at least 5 years of service credit.
Woo, I get one.
There you go.
I'm on that low
I
end,
missed
that
it
low
somewhere.
edge, age
That's
side on that one.
right. You're getting the newly vested one. So anyway, just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Okay, great, thanks, Ed. Is that it? You guys done? Okay, great, thanks. Item 8, we've got a review for information requests. Did we have any information requests? No, we did not. And the draft agenda for the next committee meeting, item 9, people could take a look at that. Our next committee meeting is, oh, sorry.
Because we've just done an update on the retirement progress reports, do you want additional information in November, or does today's report suffice? In November, we'll be able to tell you how many we mailed out
Yeah.
and any responses that we've
So-
gotten to them, so.
That's
Do
fine.
you want
If
us
you
to
want-
continue to report that out?
Yes, that'd be
Okay,
great.
thank you.
And then we'll need to add the purchase service credit item to finalize
Right,
that.
so that is the item, you're right, so let me back up. So the information, is it technically really not an information request, right?
No, that's actually an agenda
Okay,
item
okay.
that we'll need.
You guys got that, Michelle? You're on it. All right, and last but not least, are there any other statements from the public? Seeing none, benefits and services is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.